Welcome and welcome back to My Two Cents. My name is Sean. Welcome to the channel. I am glad you stopped by and come on back for more reviews, okay? Okay, so I am about to review Eclipse. And I did not write down the cast for Eclipse because it's the original cast. The only difference is now Alec, the person who played the characters, Alec, Jane, Felix. Well, Felix was they was introduced in New Moon. I am tripping and I am slacking, but I'm sorry. Okay. So again, it's Kristen Stewart as Bella, Robert Pattinson as Elwood, Taylor Lautner as Jacob, Ashley Greene as Alice, Kellen Lutz as Emmett, Nikki Reed is Rosalie, Jackson Rathbone is Jasper, Elizabeth Reeser is Esme, Peter Fasinelli is Carlisle, Anna Kendrick is Jessica, Billy Burke is Charlie, Gil Birmingham is Billy, Michael Welch is Mike Newton, Christian Serratos is Angela, Justin Chun is Eric. We do have a different Victoria. And Sarah Chalk is Renee. Okay, so in Eclipse, right? Remember in New Moon, she had went off to Italy and all that stuff, so she was grounded. She was grounded, right? So her dad Charlie was like, "You go to school and you come home." All right? I mean, I don't want to hear nothing about your boyfriend. He ain't welcome over here. It is what it is. So, so the movie started out there in the field because she could go wherever, but she had to be home by 4 o'clock. So Elwood is asking her, like, she started off with this poem, fire and ice, something about, if she had to die, she'd rather die by fire than ice or something. You will see it. And so, if she had her, her way, it's a poem of fire and ice, how she rather die. She said some say the world will end by fire, some say by ice. But if I had to die, I'd rather something, right? Because I don't know the poem. And I've seen this movie a million times, and I don't remember the poem. But I know it's called Fire and Ice, okay? So, Edward is like asking her to marry him, and she was like, change me. And finally, they get to like an agreement. Right? He was like, if I do it, you'd have to marry me. And, she was like, I have to be back at 4. And she was like, if we get married now, people going to think you've knocked me up or whatever. Because, that's what the kids are thinking. Like, no one gets married at 18. And so, so she was like, hey, I need to, be home by 4. So he takes her home. And her dad was like, hey, oh, you're on time. And, she's, in her little feelings because, like, she's grounded. And he was like, I would take you off for punishment if you see new people, see other people. And, she was like, she made this big, great declaration. Edward is in my life. You might as well, live with it or whatever. And so, yeah, so she made this great big, he was like, fine, whatever, just, Jake is going through it right now. And I remember when it was you, Jake, he was trying to be there for you. So since he is going through, why don't you go and try to be there for him? Okay, so, and remind you, in the end of 2, they decided she was going to be a vampire. They was going to wait till after graduation and all that good stuff, right? So she called Jake, and he hadn't really talked to her since, the whole debacle with, him and Edward having a run in at the end of New Moon. So she, get dressed to go over to talk to him, and her truck wouldn't start. So up pops Edward, and she was like, "Did you do this to my truck?" And he was like, "You trying to go see Jake?" And she was like, "I have until after graduation to see whoever." And he was like, you have no idea the wolves this, because he really don't want her around Jake. Period. He don't want, it ain't just the wolves, it's Jake. He don't want her around Jake. So she goes back into the house, and so what's her yeah, I went blank. Okay, so Victoria was getting her a crew together. She was building her some newbies because she was gonna start a war. She needed her army, and so she bit this one this guy, and he went and he was biting people, and because I guess at the very beginning you can't control your thirst, so you're biting people, either they turn or they die. And so she was starting the army, and what happened is, since she knew that Alice would see her mind make the decision, she was using the dude as a puppet, right? To do all this stuff. So okay, she was building her army because she wanted to come and start a war with the Cullens. And so when she was getting ready to come, she was gonna come. They knew she was gonna come, and so they decided, hey, why don't you take Bella and go see her mom? The excuse you can give is, hey, you're about to be a senior, you're about to graduate high school, and hey, you're turning into a vampire, so you might want to see her while you're still human. And she told her mom she was going to Alaska, college in Alaska, and all that crazy stuff. And so Edward and Bella, they go to her mom's in Jacksonville and spend some time with her for the weekend. And the crew, which is Carlisle, Esme, Emmett, Rosalie, Alice, Jasper, they all were waiting on Victoria because Alice saw that Victoria was going to come. So they was preparing to try to catch her. So they was running through all this stuff, and she showed up on the scene, and they running trying to catch her. Paul and Emmett get into it because they are just enemies. They can't stand each other. He's a wolf, he's a vampire. So they just had a big disagreement. So come back the first day of school, come back that Monday, they go back to school. And I forgot to mention when they had got back together. But that was in New Moon. We on to Eclipse, honey. We on Eclipse. Okay, so they come back to school, and Jake was waiting for her, right? And so when they pulled in, he said, Edward asked Bella, is there any chance you would just stay in the car? Because he already knew that Jake was there to confront him. He already knew, because Paul and Emmett had words. And so Edward get out, Bella get out, of course, and they go around. And so Jake is like, the next time y'all come on our property, and Bella's like, what are you talking about? And he was like, oh, you didn't tell her. So he was like, just leave it alone, Jake. Just leave it alone. She was like, what? What's going on? And he was like, Victoria's back. And so now she's like, well, why you didn't say nothing? He was like, I just didn't want to, that was the whole purpose in getting her away, because Victoria was coming back looking for her. And they was trying to catch Victoria before she could get to her, but it failed. So she was like, but you lied to me. And so she goes and, she was like, hey, why haven't you been calling, returning my phone calls? And he was like, I ain't had nothing to say. Jake was like, I didn't have nothing to say. She said, well, I have tons to say. So she go get on the back of his motorcycle and they ride off, right? Edward is hot, Oh, he's hot, but he cannot stand Jake. Jake can't stand him. It is what it is. So, they ride off, and so she's spending time with him and stuff, and so Jake was asking her. Well, he was trying to show her like there will be no need to be a vampire. Like they're not even human. If that's what you want to call them, they're not even human. They don't what. And she was like, well, we're going to wait till after graduation to make it better for Charlie. And Jake went off and he was like, not before I could, I guess put his plan in motion. But I told you guys from the first Twilight, from the first installment, she was not into Jake like that. Period. It was something about Edward, his lifestyle, the way he was. That's what Bella wanted from day one. She didn't want to live in a house that had a weight holding the blue tarp on it to keep it from raining in the house. And see, they showed that. They showed that, I believe, is in Breaking Dawn, that Jake's house had this weight holding this blue tarp, basically to keep it from raining inside the house. She didn't want to live like that. She done went over there in Twilight and saw how Edward was living. She see how they living, opposed to how Jake is living. There was no competition. Like, this the life she wanted. She wanted this lifestyle. She wanted to be able to live this type of life. She did not want Jake in that way, right? Jake was the one that couldn't, She always wanted Edward. Even when Edward went off, ran off, because the family had to leave, her heart was with Edward. Jake stepped in and was help easing the fact that she's alone. However, she never fell in love with Jake like that or loved Jake. She loved Jake as a good friend, buddy, whatever you want to call him. But her heart was toward Edward the whole time. That's why she was so devastated when they left. Like, this girl lost her ever-loving mind. She didn't want to be bothered with the crew. She didn't have time. She was said to herself. She did not have time because she didn't want that. She didn't want that. She wanted the Cullens lifestyle. Okay, I don't know why people don't get that. She did not want Jake's lifestyle. Period. So, Jake take her back and she tells. Oh no, so Jake take her back. And because when he had said, he made a little stupid comment and then he apologized. And so, anywho, they knew Victoria was coming back. And so they had seen the devastation. They knew she was up in Seattle creating havoc. And they hadn't fed, they don't eat people. They don't kill people. They go kill animals and drink the blood. So they hadn't fed in a few days, but it was all over the news what was going on in Seattle. Also, the boy who had turned into, who Victoria had turned, his parents were in the police station trying to, get Charlie to, put these flyers out and help find a child. And so, now reality hit because she was like, Dad, she was like, he's missing. And he was like, yeah, he's missing. And so she was like, and his dad was like, he would never give up. If that was Bella, he'd keep looking forever. Like, and it hit, wait a minute, whoa, whoa. So she was talking to Elwood and she was like, how do you you know, how do you deal, with that? And he was like, well, think about it. You'll be a vampire forever. So the people who know you now, and years later they'll be dead, and then the new people don't know who you are. So, the people who know you now, your dad and all them be dead, 30, 40 years, 50, 60 years from now. And then, it is what it is. I mean, that's the reality of it. Like, the people who you know now, they gonna die, and you still a vampire, so you gonna still live, and then you gonna meet new people who don't know you, and more people who don't know you, so it is a trip. So anyway, so they got to the point where Victoria had it was Victoria along with the other guy. I can't think his name. They was creating all these problems, right? They was like I said, they was building the army to come to fight. And so the Volturi had came, and they was looking at they was like, we're gonna eventually have to get RO involved or whatever, because they're bringing too much heat. They're doing too much. And so Jane and her brother was trying to make the call, whether or not what to do about the situation. And so Carlisle asked Jacob, do he think okay, so Carlisle asked Jacob, could the wolves, could he talk, and could he get the wolves involved? And they do this collab. Can they show up for training? Because, and what happened was, okay, so let me take you back a little bit. So while sitting at school, Alice saw that Victoria was coming. So when she saw it, the next thing you know, she tried to act like it was a party, going on or whatever. And that's when Edward took Bella out of town to see her mom, because she was coming. Okay, so now they know she's coming, and they getting ready for it, and they know she's trying to get Bella, so they want to go and hide her at the top of the and actually what happened, so Rusty Beers, I think that's his name, he actually came to Bella's house. He came, and he came and got a scarf, and they was passing around this, the scarf of Bella's or whatever, because this is what the vampires were smelling, because they all wanted to, get her. That was the thing, because, of course, Victoria was mad that they killed James, but she was, she was pretending that it was for a bigger, something else, because, of course, she told the guy it was something totally different why she wanted to kill Bella. And so, they was going to take Bella up. So Jacob came to take her up, and because they was doing like watch detail. They was making sure she okay. So she would hang with Jake, and then her and Jake had hung out, and then like her and Edward was together. Then her and Jake had hung, because they was really trying to keep her safe. And so her and Jake hung out, and then that night they went to Jake and Gil and all these people, Billy and all these people sitting around, and he was telling about how, when they met the cold ones, and, how they had cornered the woman, and she killed herself. She cut herself to get them off of the other people to distract so they could fight back. It was pretty insightful. And so, Bella had heard it, right? And so they went on, and now they were all working together. So the wolves and the vampires had got together to practice because they was gonna be when they came because they was preparing for them to come. So they was preparing for the battle because they said the newbies they are very very strong. Like in your first few days or months of being a newborn vampire, you're very very strong. So Victoria had already stuck that key in his back. I think his name was Rusty or Rodney or some the Beers, and she stuck that key in his back. Riley, his name was Riley Beers, and so him and his group, him and his little army had came, and they had been practicing getting the things together. But what they didn't know was the vampires had the wolves on standby to help with the battle, and so they came the day of came. They took Bella up high to the very peak of the mountains where it was freezing. And Jake took her, right, so that she would smell him and not Bella. So that Victoria would smell him and not Bella. And Elwood, came. So Jake went on and stayed. They had her in a tent, and it was freezing cold. And so Jake was like, Bella said, "You can go on and go," and he said, "No, I'm gonna stay." And so the battle started. Edward could see through Alice's mind what was happening. And so the battle started. Then the wolves came, joined in, and then all of a sudden. They tell Jake, Seth come and tell Jake, "Come on, we need to go." They coming. Well, no, Alice tells, telepathically, she tells Edward that, and they go. So, okay, so here come the Volturi. The battle is over. They done lit a fire. But one of the little girls, she was hiding. So Jane noticed her, and she was like, so, Esme was like, we'll keep her, we'll do that. And so she was like, oh, no, y'all don't have the right to make them kind of decisions. Phyllis, go take care of that so I can go home. And she was like, and Caius would be very interested to know that you're still human, because she's supposed to been changing her. And so Bella was like, the date has been set or whatever. And so they left, right? So I want to make sure I hit everything. She spent the night at Edward's house, and she really thought something was gonna happen. He was like, "No, stop trying to take your clothes off. Ain't nothing happening." And he basically told, he said, this ain't what I want. If this would have been a different time, I would have sat on the porch and courted you. We'd have drunk lemonade. I'd have asked your hand in marriage. And he asked her, he was like, would you, Bella Swan, would you marry me? And she said yes. And so she said yes. And then he had brought that back to her attention, because he knew Jake was listening, right? And so Jake was like, you're marrying him? And so he's upset, and she run. He was like, Bella, she was like, no. So she go after Jake, and she was like, I'm sorry. Kiss me, Jake, kiss me. And, because the last time he kissed her, she hit him in the face and broke her hand. And, she said, he said he'll never kiss her no more unless she asked him. So now she was like, kiss me, Jake, and they kissed. And he left, because he was hot and bothered and upset that you're going to marry him. And she knew that he heard every thought, she knew. And because Jake and Edward had this intimate conversation, I want to get to that. They had, while they was, that night while they was, away in the tent, Jake and Elwood had an intimate conversation, and Jake had told Elwood, if you would have stayed gone just a little while longer, then I could have, I could have, she would have been with me. And Elwood was like, I left. I left, and it almost killed both of us. And, they really saw that they was, they was really coming down to, it's really what Bella wants. Whichever one she decides, that's the one she decides. And mind you, Edward is a vampire, so he is ice cold, it's freezing, and Jacob is 105, 110 degrees, stay hot. So he get up there, and he get over there, and she cuddled up to him, and Edward was having a fit, and he was like, "Can you at least, can you at least control your thoughts?" Because he can hear what he know what he can hear what he's saying. And he said, "I really get up under that cold skin of yours." And but yeah, like they finally came to the common theme. It's really what Bella wants. So the next day, like I said, the fight happened, and so now they back in the field. Everything is okay. They back in the field, and he was like, why you doing all this stuff? You're doing it on a particular day, and she was like, because she want to. She was like, I've always felt out of step, and I've always felt, she was just telling him she never felt like she fit in, and the reason why she feel like she never fit in was because she was supposed to be in his world. Again, I've been telling you guys, from Twilight until now, she didn't want Jake lifestyle. Period. She wanted that lifestyle. She wanted that coloring lifestyle. She saw how they lived, and that's what she wanted. And yeah, Jake, you cool and all. We can be good friends, but that's where it stops, because I want this over here. You can't give me this over here. Because even he was saying how, because in the fight, what's her name? In the fight, Seth's sister, I can't think of her name, guys. They both was, Jake had got the vampire who they didn't see, and Lil. So Lil had got him, and Jake was trying to help her, and then he crushed Jake. And so, of course, he crushed his bones, shattered his bones. So they had to carry Jake back to his home, and then Carlisle went to visit him, to sew him up. And he was hollering and screaming because he had to break all the rest of his bones just so they can get back together. And so Jake had told her, he was like, you wouldn't have to, stop breathing to be with me. It would be as easy as, baby, she didn't want none of that, okay? I'm here to tell you, she didn't want no parts of what Jake was talking about. And Jake told her he'll be waiting for her even. And she said, I know, until my heart stops beating. And he was like, even after that. Because Jake was in love with her. He was totally in love with her. I don't see how they gave her. Oh, well, let me not get ahead of myself. But anywho, he was totally in love. She was not. Let's not get it twisted. She was never in love with Jake. Jake was just there to take the place of Edward, to get her mind off Edward, to create a distraction from Edward. That was it. So they were sitting in the grass again. So they were sitting on the grass, the same grass that they were sitting on, well, in the field, the same field they were sitting in when the movie first opened. And she was telling him how she always felt out of step, and that's because she belonged in his world, and how, so she was like, good thing you were made, you're a vampire, because, when Charlie find out they get married, Charlie probably going to try to kill him. So She said, I'm going to need that ring back. Because he had gave her the ring when she spent the night at her house. But she must have gave it back. So that's how it went out. They was back in the field. And, you know, she accepted it. That they was going to get married. And it is what it is at the end of the day. Okay? That's where her heart was. That's who she loved. And Jake was only a distraction. She never wanted to be with Jake. She never, ever, 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 ever wanted to be with Jake. Right? Jake fell in love. Period. It was not Bella. He was just a distraction. So, that was my review on Eclipse. And I will come back with breaking down 1 and 2. When I do 1, I'm going to do 1 and 2, you know, in the same day. So if you see 1, you can be looking out for 2. But that was my review, my take on Eclipse. I've already done Twilight. I've done New Moon. And this is Eclipse. And then we have Breaking Dawn 1 and Breaking Dawn 2 coming. And it just gets better and better. The story, it just gets better and better and better, right? This whole Twilight Saga does it for me. I'm totally here for it. And if I had to rate this between 1 and 5 stars, of course it get 5.5 stars. Again, I totally love the whole Twilight Saga. So I will see you all back for Breaking Down Part 1 and 2. And please like, comment, and subscribe. Please come back. And I will see you all in my next review. Bye.